beautiful worship, but we'll have to exit out of that. All right. Yeah, beautiful worship there, and to kind of get us started, but I don't want to stay with that so long here. Let's focus on the teaching. As I mentioned, this will be a continuation. Remember when I did the other teaching, I said I didn't want to make it so long by including scriptures from the Secrets of Enoch, or the book of the Secrets of Enoch. So this is going to be a separate teaching. Hallelujah. And to God be the glory, the Most High Yahweh, even as we get into this teaching. And it's very exciting, a lot of nice things to learn. And one thing about this book that we're using here, or that I'll be using here, it's actually part of the ancient Ethiopian Hebrew scriptures. And the difference between this book and the digital version, what you find out on the internet, as far as you know, the book of the Secrets of Enoch, or the books of Enoch, I noted that the chapters on this digital version are more than the chapters on this book, the hard copy. And the reason is actually this. Look at this together. This is one of a kind. So this one of a kind Hebrew English version are the first and second books of Enoch. So the first book of Enoch is called the Book of Enoch, and the second book of Enoch is called the Secrets of Enoch. Okay, so the difference between particularly the Secrets of Enoch, or the second book of Enoch, that's in here in this hard copy here, and the digital copy that we're using here, is that on the digital copy, which is not Ethiopian or Ethiopic, there's more chapters. But basically what I've seen is that in the Ethiopian or Ethiopic version, there is fewer chapters but more verses in some of the chapters. So like where you say, like on the digital version, you are in chapter 7, and then it transitions to chapter 8. In this book here, it stays as chapter 7. So instead of there being like 12 verses in chapter 7, there is like 20 or something like that. So, and you'll notice that as you go along. But anyway, this one of a kind Hebrew English version of the first and second books of Enoch is translated from the original Hebrew and is unlike any other version available. It contains precepts from the Old Testament in royal blue, the Apocrypha and other missing books in royal purple, and the New Testament in red. And the name of Yahweh is written in gold. Key Hebrew terms and phrases are in royal purple with their Strong's Concordance numbers. We have included detailed information on Enoch's calendar, the Mazzaroth, or the Hebrew zodiac, the incredible birth and origin of Melchizedek, the Hebrew names and offices of the 7 archangels. I'll be doing that as a separate teaching, and a comprehensive knowledge of the 12 orders of the holy angels in heaven. I already did that, and this is a follow-up to that teaching. Also included is a breakdown of who are the watchers. And if you remember from the list of holy angels, the 12 orders of holy angels, the watchers right here, right now by 11. And I told you the Hebrew name for watchers is Irim. And guess what I just discovered? Another connection to the Bantu language, one of many of the Bantu languages. In the tribe of Asher, or Asha. You know, when we pronounce it in English, it's Asha, but it's actually Asher, which means blessed. The Kikuyu tribe, there's a word called Irimo. That is actually the same word. Irim here, this word here, Irim, you just add a U there and to be Irimo. So that's another Hebrew connection right there. And Irimo in Kikuyu is giant. And the giants, you know, from what we know in the scriptures, they came from the product of these watchers and human females. So Irimo, very interesting. So Irim basically is what you call Irimo in the Bantu language. Okay, so anyway, the 12 orders of holy angels. Also included is a breakdown of who are the watchers. I'll be doing that as a separate teaching, okay? And who are the Nephilim. Full color photographs, charts and study tools enhanced your learning. Okay, that's more about a pitch. It's more of a picture for the book, but it's all beautiful. So let's actually now get into the the beautiful chapters in this book here. All right, and also side by side we'll have the digital version that I have displayed up there. Let's see how we are doing here. Okay, so with this version here, as I mentioned, I'll be doing side by side the two. You notice that as per the introduction, this is a Hebrew English version, so it's actually the original from the original Hebrew, and I was trying to compare them with the digital version, and there's the digital version is actually pretty similar to this original version. The only difference, as I mentioned, is that there is more chapters on the digital version than in this hard copy, and that's because in the hard copy, which is more like the original, some of the chapters, and you remember, these books were written as scrolls. They never used to have chapters and verses. All right, so that's why you'll find there'll be those kind of differences when the scroll is broken down into chapters and verses. Okay, that's to make it the chapters and verses make it easier for us to read, and we should really appreciate that. It also makes it easier for us to reference. Like if I tell you to go to chapter 3 verse 3, then it will be easier. But if it's just the scroll with no line verses in chapters, it's kind of very hard. Anyway, so here we are, and if it's your first time, you're more than welcome, and please consider subscribing so that we can get the channel more noticed, and that way we'll reach more of our people. That's the only reason we push for the promotion of the channel, because the algorithms will tend to promote channels that have more following and stuff like that. All right, anyway, so the topic, as I mentioned last time, will be a continuation on our discussion about the holy angels, but this is actually going to be more of looking at the various levels of heaven and the holy angels that are found in the various levels, and other amazing things that are happening in the various levels of heaven. And we're going to pick up from where Enoch is, when he was picked up by the holy angels from his house and taken to heaven. And it's very, very interesting, because first of all, the two holy angels that picked him up, we'll be seeing that later on. The names are Shemuel, which means heart of Elohim, and Reuel, which means friend of Elohim. Those are the two angels described as men who came to pick up Enoch or Hanok from his house, and then they took him to heaven. So Hanok, ascension, or Hanok's ascension or ascension to the first heaven. Okay. What I'm going to do is that I'll be staying with the digital version, and then kind of coming back and forth where we need to look at cross-referencing of scriptures. But for this one, let me just start with all right, let me start here. It came to pass after all that I spake to my sons. And this is Enoch describing, he was given instructions. He spoke to his children. And actually here, remember, we are talking about the secrets of Enoch here, which is a follow-up it's a follow-up to the book of Enoch. Okay, so it came to pass after all that I spake to my sons, and the men called me, and they carried me on their wings and bore me up on the to the first heaven. Now, when we look at the digital version, even we go there very quickly, we see about concerning. Let's just start here anyway. At that time, he said, well, there was a wise man and a great artisan whom the Lord took away, and he loved him so that he might see the highest realms and of the most wise and great and inconceivable and unchanging kingdom of God Almighty, and of the most marvelous and glorious and shining and many-eyed station of the Lord's servants, and of the Lord's immovable throne, and of the ranks and organization of the bodiless armies. Remember when I was telling you about the incorporeal forces? They are called Kokot Loguf, and I told you Lo means no and Guf means body. So here we're seeing an allusion or a reference to the bodiless armies and of the indescribable composition of the multitude of elements. Singing of the army of the cherubim or cherubim, and of the light without measure, to be an eyewitness. Okay, so concerning Enoch's dream, at that time he said, when 165 years were complete for me, I fathered my son Methuselah, and after that I lived 200 years. I completed all the years of my life, 365 years. In the first month of the assigned day of the first month, I was in my house alone, and I lay on my bed sleeping. In some of the versions they say he lay on his couch. Okay, and while I slept, a great distress entered my heart, and I was weeping with my eyes in a dream, and I could not figure out what this distress might be, nor what might be happening to me. Then two huge men appeared to me, the like of which I had never seen on earth. Now, who were those men? I told you they are Shemuel and Reuel. Okay, those are the names of the two holy angels. And later on in our study, we shall see how the Most High, the Most High actually refers to the two in his conversation with Hanok or with Enoch. All right, I came back to the book here. So this is what we are reading there. All right. And verse 4, and the two men appeared unto me exceeding big, so that I never saw like unto them my days upon earth. And their faces were shining like the sun, their eyes were like a burning light, and fire came forth from their lips. Their clothing and feathers and feet were in various colors of purple. Their wings, okay, now you see that amazing, look at that, the feet. You see the feet? Color, purple is a dark hue. Okay, their wings were brighter than gold. We have seen holy angels with the golden chariots. Yeah, their hands whiter than snow. You've also seen holy angels with white chariots. But here it's a sparkling, is a shining of the splendor of the holy angels being described there, as white as snow. I want to quickly come here and look at Revelation 1:16 because I saw a cross reference to that. Revelation 1 and verse 16. What does it say? Revelation 1 and verse 16 says, and he had in his right hand 7 stars, and out of his mouth went a sharp two-edged sword, and his countenance was as the sun shineth in his strength. So this is describing Yahushua HaMashiach. Okay, this is a description of Yahushua HaMashiach when he appeared to Yohanan or John the Revelator, and he was also shining just like the holy angels were shining, just like Yahushua HaMashiach was shining when he appeared to Yohanan on the island of Patmos. Okay, so they were standing at the head of my bed, and they called me by my name. And I awoke from my sleep, and when I awoke, I saw those men standing next to me, and I made haste and bowed before them. Now you see, obeisance. He's saluting the holy angels. I told you, that's our response is not to worship the holy angels, but to salute them. But let's see what happened. So he kind of saluted them. He bowed down in respect, and I was afraid. I told you the first time you experience the ministry of the holy angels, it's scary, human nature. With encountering the divine, celestial beings, and I was afraid, and the appearance of my face was changed from terror. I was very terrified, because we are so used to the terrestrial stuff. Our senses are used to terrestrial things, interacting with our friends and contemporaries and all that. But when it comes to and people will sing and read scriptures and talk about angels and heavenly things, but encountering them is a totally different ball game. Okay, I have seen someone singing a song where they are praying, the song is based on the Exodus from the first Egypt, where the Most High led our ancestors with a pillar of cloud and during the day and a pillar of fire by night, and this brother was singing for the Most High to lead us like that. And right behind him, guess what there was? There was a chariot in the skies, but the guy has no clue. So people just sing things or pray, but they don't. It's like they don't really mean it. They are preoccupied with what they are doing, but they don't. They're not meditating on the spiritual seriousness of what they are saying. So people can preach, talk about angels or heavenly things, but encountering the same is a totally different ball game, and the reaction will be very different. Okay, and remember, Enoch was a man of prayer. Okay, he was a very prayerful guy. And the man said unto me, have courage, Enoch, do not fear. The eternal Elohim sent us to you, and today you shall ascend with us into heaven. Let's see Deuteronomy 31:6. What is Deuteronomy 31:6 telling us here? Deuteronomy Deuteronomy 31 and verse 6. Let's see where that takes us. Cross-referencing here. Be strong and have a good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. For the Lord thy God, he is that doth go with thee. He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. So, well, you know, we see the same kind of exhortation or encouragement when you're facing situations that would make us to fear. And now command your sons and all the children of your house what they shall do without you upon the earth in your house, and let no one seek you till Yahweh return you to them. Jasher 3:17. I'm not gonna go to Jasher, but it's very interesting. We see there that we see that the holy angels gave instructions to Enoch or Hanok to talk to his family so that they would not look for him when he was gone. God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. Okay, so here, coming back to the digital version, pretty much the same here, and here we're seeing that they gave him instructions, and let no one search for you until the Lord returns you to them. And I hurried and obeyed them, and I went out of my house and shut the doors as I had been ordered. And I called my sons Methuselah and Regem and Gadad, and I declared to them all the marvels that those men had told me. Okay, so in chapter 2 he gives instructions to his to his family, and then so we move on to chapter 3, which is where I wanted to start in the first place, but I thought I should give you some background. So those are the instructions he's giving there. We're not gonna go there and do all the cross-reference for the sake of time here. Chapter 3. So this is where we were, and so it came to pass after all that I spake to my sons, and the men called me, and they carried me on their wings. I told you their names are Shemuel and Reuel, and bore me up to the first heaven. All right. The Psalms 91 verse 11 here, you normally hear me reference that, and when I'm recording the holy angels. And Psalms 91, this is where shall command his angels to watch us in all our ways. So let's go there very quickly and show you. Okay, for he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. They shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. So that's the cross reference there. And so we see that Enoch was carried by the holy angels on their wings. Let's go here anyway, and they carried me up to the first heaven and placed me on the clouds. So the first heaven is what we call the skies or the clouds up here. And behold, they were moving, and there I perceived the air higher up, and higher still I saw the ether, and they placed me on the first heaven, and they showed me a vast ocean, much bigger than the earthly ocean. So the first heaven is the firmament up there. Okay, that's the first heaven. And so Enoch was taken beyond the clouds and put on the first heaven, which is the firmament, and he saw a sea. Some of the versions call it a sea. This one is calling it an ocean. And you'll see that in I think the book of Revelation, verse 4, and chapter 4 verse 6, it talks about the sea is a glassy sea. This described as a glassy sea. And so it's basically, when you look at the story of creation, you see that the waters were separated so that some of the waters are above the heaven and others below the heavens. So there is a sea in heaven, a glassy sea, and you see that referenced in various scriptures. Okay, so and so this is where actually in the book itself we see here the reference being made to the here it refers to verse 3, and they placed me on the first heaven and showed me a very great sea, greater than the earthly sea. You see that? And they showed me, and they brought before me the chief rulers of the stellar orders, and they showed me 200 angels who rule the stars, and they build the heavens and fly along with their wings round all the acacia. My, that's amazing. Remember acacia? Well, I haven't brought you the teaching on the tabernacle, but the tabernacle, a lot of the structures in the tabernacle are built using acacia wood, which is shittim wood that never decays. It's amazing that we see acacia in heaven. Now let's go to the digital version here a little bit and see that, because what you find, look, I catch them right here. Okay, so you see what they have done is that now they have separated it into another chapter, that as I forewarned you. Okay, but what you'll notice still, I smelled some mischief. Watch this. They led before my face the elders, the rulers of the stellar orders, and they showed me the 200 angels who govern the stars and the heavenly combinations, and they fly with their wings and do the rounds of all the planets. Now they are bringing planets. You gotta watch how Esau manipulates scriptures. There's no planets, okay? There is nowhere the Most High created other planets. All right, those are lies, Greek mythology and stuff. Okay, so anyway, but that's another right from where, as I warned you, they have broken it into more chapters. Okay, but when we go back to the hard copy here, the original with Hebrew, you find that it's the same chapter. Okay, so let's stay with this, and I hope there not be too much shimmering, that you'll be able to read. I hope you can read that. And there I saw the storehouses of the snow and the ice, and the angels who keep their terrible storehouses, and the storehouses of the clouds that come out, into which they go. Job 38:29. Now, so here you can see, before we go to Job, he's talking about the angels that guard the storehouses of snow. And I mentioned when I was doing that teaching from the book of Baruch, showing the fact that the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was not an apple. I told you, from the scriptures that there are holy angels who are responsible for the various elements of the weather. So when you see storms, tornadoes, snow, ice, and all that, there are holy angels responsible for that. It is all these lies the wicked heathens are lying about climate change and all that. Climate change, what? It is the Most High who is doing the changes to bring the various disasters, you see, to punish the wicked. It's part of the incremental judgment that the Most High is bringing against the wicked. Yeah, but instead of them repenting, they will say climate change. They divert. They bring a distraction and talk about climate change, and they increase upon their wickedness by making more unrighteous decrees. Yeah, that's why the scriptures tell us that the Lord will destroy those who destroy the earth when He comes back, because they've been destroying the earth with their wickedness. And then they blame it on climate change, and they blame people for carbon emissions. They're very wicked. They spin out more and more wickedness. Okay, but we see that anyway. The holy angels are responsible for. Actually, it's all here about and there I perceived the treasuries of the snow and the ice, and the angels who guard their terrible storehouses, and the treasury of the clouds from which they come out and go in. Okay, about the dew and about the olive oil and various flowers. You see, the olive oil has a heavenly connection, and not surprisingly we use it for anointing oil. Yeah, and the dew and about the olive oil and various flowers. Okay, now again, Israel is usually referred to as an olive tree. You see that connection? And they showed me the treasuries of the dew like olive oil, and the appearance of its image was like every kind of earthly flower, only more numerous, and the angels who guard their treasuries, how they are shut and opened, how the treasuries are shut and opened. Okay, we're gonna go look at Job 38:29. Job 38:29 as a cross reference, and see what that's about. Job 38:29. Out of whose womb came the ice, and the hoary frost of heaven, who hath gendered it? The waters are hid as with a stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. So and you see him referring to even some of the constellations. Oh yeah, amazing. Come on people, watch this. Canst thou bind the sweetest inferences of Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion? Orion is one of the constellations. Canst thou bring forth Mezaroth in his season, or canst thou guide Arcturus with his sons? So these are, remember at the beginning when I was doing the introduction to the book, we saw Mezaroth. So the book of actually Job talks about it. Knowest thou the ordinances of heaven? Canst thou set the dominion thereof in the earth? So Job, and his colleagues here talking back and forth, but they were alluding to those things that we are seeing in the books of Enoch, which is very beautiful. So anyway, we are seeing there the various the things that Enoch saw in heaven, but I want to actually move on here and show you now. So that was it's in the book here. It's a longer chapter 3 than in the on the digital version. Now I want us to look at Enoch in the second heaven, because my goal is for us to look at the heavens. Okay, very quickly here. Secrets of Enoch, Enoch's ascension to the second heaven. And those men raised me up and carried me to the second heaven, and they showed me, and I saw darkness greater than the outer darkness. Let's go to here. Is not chapter 4, it's already 7. You see that? Okay, so and those men picked me up and brought me up to the second heaven, and they showed me, and I saw a darkness greater than the outer darkness, and there I perceived prisoners under guard, hanging up, waiting for the measureless judgment. And those angels have the appearance of darkness itself. So the prisoners in the second heaven are angels. Those are angels under punishment. We'll see why. Okay. when just I don't know why some camps teach that angels cannot fall. They have some people have very strange doctrine. I don't know where they get that from, but we know, right from the beginning, the Satan and some of the the angels, they fell, and later on another group of watchers fell during the time of Enoch. Actually, it's the time of Noah, right? So the time of Noah, and those angels have the appearance of darkness itself, more than earthly darkness, and unceasingly they made weeping all the day long. And I said to the men who were with me, why are these ones being tormented unceasingly? Those men answered me, these are those who turned away from the Lord, who did not obey the Lord's commandments, but of their own will plotted together and turned away with their prince and with those who are under restraint in the fifth heaven. So, right, so we're getting more details here. There is some restrained, some of the fallen angels are restrained on the second heaven, and in another group on the fifth heaven. We shall be seeing that when we get to the fifth heaven. Okay, but already we see that there is more than 3 heavens. Okay, the wicked have been hiding some of these books, but the Most High is revealing them to us in these last days, and that is something that was actually told to Enoch prophetically by the Most High. Okay, follow me and see what's going on here. And I felt very sorry for them, and those angels bowed down to me and said to me, man of God, pray for us to the Lord. Remember, we are reading the book of the secrets of Enoch. This is authentic scriptures. Okay, and I always encourage you to study, be like the Bereans. Don't take my word for it. Look at the scriptures for yourself and see that this is authentic. Okay, even some of the language people have been using in Christianese, man of God and all that. So here, okay, so the fallen angels were asking the man of God, Enoch, to pray for them. Okay, man of God, pray for us to the Lord. And I answered them and said, who am I, a mortal man, that I should pray for angels? Who knows where I am going and what will confront me, or who indeed will pray for me? So, as I told you, there is a difference between the terrestrial and the celestial. And that's why, when we as mortal men encounter, the heavenly, there is a natural fear or terror that is part of the reaction. Okay, but we see anyway that those fallen angels are, some of them are hanging as prisoners in the second heaven. Okay, and they are under guard. They are being guarded by holy angels, and they are hanging upside down, and they are waiting for measureless judgment. And I think we see an allusion to that in the book of Peter, because we see Peter talking about that. There's something in a cross reference to Zephaniah here. Zephaniah 1:15. Zephaniah 1:15. Let's see what's going on there. That day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. So they are waiting. You see, the fallen angels are waiting for that day. Okay, because they are and they are already testing the judgment. Okay, so Luke 16 also and 28. Luke 16 and 28. Let's see that very quickly. It's part of the Sorad or Gospel. Let's see what's going on in Luke 16 and 28, right? For 5 brethren, that he may testify unto them, lest they also come into this place of torment. This was the rich man who was now pleading with Lazarus, yeah, for the sake of his people who were still on earth. You kind of probably remember that story. Okay, so there is a place of torment for the wicked and for the fallen angels who are also wicked. Okay, and here we see, man of Elohim, pray for us to Yahweh. And I answered unto them and said, who am I, a mortal man, that I should pray for angels? Who knows whither I shall go with my soul, or what will befall me, or who will pray for me? Luke 16:26. Let's go back to that 26. And besides all this, between us and you there is a great gulf fixed, or great valley, so that they which would pass from hence to you cannot, neither can they pass to us that would come from thence. So this was the discussion between Lazarus and the rich man, and the rich man was asking for a drop of water from Lazarus, but Lazarus was like, I cannot even come over to your place, neither can you come over. So, and actually, if we were to start from the beginning, meaning the book of Enoch, you'll see all that. He has a detailed description of where the souls of men are kept, in the divisions between the righteous and the wicked. Okay, so let's move on here because of time. Enoch's ascension to the third heaven. Okay, remember we've already looked at the second heaven, and we realized the first heaven is the firmament up there. And what do we see there? We see the glassy sea. Okay, a sea that's larger than the earthly sea. What we find on the second heaven, we find fallen angels who are prisoners under guard, being guarded by holy angels, and they are also hanged. They are also being, they are hanged. They are kind of hanging there, and they are under ceaseless torment. And there's dark, there's gloom and darkness that's greater than earthly darkness. All right, and they are waiting for the unceasing torment at the end. All right, so that's what's happening in the second heaven. So in the second heaven, there are fallen angels under torment, in chains, being hanged upside down, and they are also being guarded by holy angels who are serving as what? Prison guards. All right, third heaven. Let's see what's happening on the third heaven. You see, this here shows up as chapter 5, but in the digital is a different chapter. And those men raised me up and carried me to the third heaven, and they placed me inside a garden. Let's look at Paul, 2 Corinthians 12. Okay, 2 Corinthians 12, because a lot of people, due to the fact that these books were hidden, they just know about the third heaven, and they think that's all there is, but there's more than 3 heavens. Okay, so it is, we are reading from 2 Corinthians chapter 12. It is not expedient for me, doubtless, to glory. I'll come to visions and revelations of the Lord. I knew a man in Christ above 14 years ago, whether in the body I cannot tell, or whether out of the body I cannot tell. God knoweth. Such an one caught up to the third heaven. And I knew such a man, whether in body or out of body I cannot tell. God knoweth, how that he was caught up into paradise. And I heard unspeakable words, which it is not lawful for a man to utter. Okay, of such an one will I glory, yet of myself I will not glory, but in mine infirmity. So this is Paul speaking kind of sideways or in parables about himself and how he was caught up to the third heaven. And as I mentioned in one of my earlier videos, the third heaven is paradise. Actually, when I was talking about the introduction to the book of Bartholomew. So the Garden of Eden and paradise, the third heaven, are connected. All right, are you with me? First heaven, firmament, glassy sea, larger than the earthly sea. Second heaven is like a prison for the fallen angels. They hang upside down there and under great torment and greater darkness than there is darkness on the earth. They're waiting for ceaseless torment at the end, and they're being guarded by holy angels. Third heaven, paradise. All right, so let's see on the digital here. All right, so there he sees paradise. What did we see here? So we've already seen that. Yeah. So we saw the cross reference here, and I looked down from there and I saw that place of immeasurable goodness, and I saw all the beautiful flowering trees and their fruits bringing forth sweet present order, and all the angels bringing it, and the sweet order was abundant. Okay, so let's do it from here, and from the digital version there. Okay, let's try to make it appear more legible. Okay, so we are in the third heaven, which here is chapter 8. In the hard copy it's chapter 5. And those men took me from there, and they brought me up to the third heaven and set me down there. Then I looked downward and I saw paradise, and that place is inconceivably present. And I saw the trees in full flower, and their fruits were ripe and present smelling, with every food in yield, and giving off profusely a present fragrance. And the midst of them was the tree of life, at that place where the Lord takes a rest when he goes into paradise. See that? We saw in the gospel of Bartholomew, Yahushua was saying how he and Yahweh, the Father, they meet at the Garden of Eden every day, and that tree is indescribable for presentness and fine fragrance, and more beautiful than any other created thing that exists. And from every direction it has an appearance which is good looking and crimson, and with the form of fire, and it covers the whole of paradise. Imagine that, the tree of life covers the whole of paradise, and it has something of every orchard tree and of every fruit. Listen to that. And its root is in paradise at the exit that leads to the earth. Listen to, so you see, I told you in the Gospel of Bartimaeus that there is a connection between paradise, or the third heaven, and the earth, the Garden of Eden. It's now we see in part, we prophesy in part, but we shall understand by and by. Okay, so there is a connection there between the third heaven and the earth, and there is a connection to Eden. Okay, it's part of Eden, is connected to third heaven, and paradise is in between the corruptible and incorruptible. And two streams come forth, one a source of honey and milk. Remember, when we go back to the promised land, it will be a land of milk and honey. I told you when we were looking at the introduction to the book of Bartholomew or Bartimaeus that it shall be like going back to the Garden of Eden. Okay, so, and a source which produces oil and wine. Okay, remember, even when in the book of Revelation, when the wicked, when we see actually we see the horse riders, and those horse riders are actually alluding to Esau and what's happening now, because they are given power to bring death, famine, and all that. But remember, when talking about the famine part, he's told not to. The instructions not to injure the oil and the wine. It's either one of the holy angels or the horse riders. Okay, but the oil and the wine are to be spared, and it is divided into 4 parts, and they go around with a quiet cycle, with a quiet movement, and they come out into the paradise of Eden. You see that? There's a connection between paradise and Eden. I told you that. Between the corruptible and the incorruptible. And from there they pass along and divide into 40 parts. And it proceeds in descent along the earth. And they have a revolution in their cycle, just like the other atmospheric elements. Listen to that. And there is no unfruitfulness, there is no unfruitful tree there. And every tree is well fruited, and every place is blessed. And there are 300 angels, very bright. Now you see, when you watch my footages, you'll see the lead angels usually are brighter than the other holy angels. It's very interesting, but we'll understand everything by and by. So there are 300 angels, very bright, who look after paradise, and with never ceasing voice and present singing, they worship the Lord every day and hour. And I said, how very present is this place? And those men said to me, this place, Enoch, has been prepared for the righteous. So this is now switching to chapter 9 in the digital. But when we go back to here, right, so we see the description. This is chapter 5 here. All right, and over here it is it's already going to, it's chapter 8 and 9. Yeah, so going back here, so it's a continuation where we just read about the 300 very bright angels keep the garden, and with unceasing voices they do they sing beautifully. Okay, they serve Yahweh all the days. And I said, how good is this place? And those men said to me, this place, O Enoch, is prepared for the righteous, who lift up all manner of prayers in their lives, and have turned their eyes away from the wicked and from the liars. And they made righteous judgment, and gave some of their bread to the hungry, and they covered the naked with clothes, and raised up the fallen, giving alms, helping. They help the oppressed and the orphans, and walk perfectly before Yahweh. Let me go to the digital, because so that you see clearly. Okay, let me go I told you I have about 2 years worth of footage recording the holy angels, and in some of my earlier footages that I never posted on YouTube or whatever, some of them I used to share directly with some of you who know that. But I have shared, what I used to do was to put like scriptures after every footage, and I have some of the footages where I shared these chapters from the book of the Secret of Enoch. I talked about what's on the third heaven, but unfortunately I used to just share directly with my contacts without posting them on social media, whatever. So, but I do still have them in the archive. So once the website is fully established, we shall upload a lot of those footages up there for a testimony for people to see, our awakening people to go there and see. So anyway, chapter 9 here, which is over there, it's still chapter 5. Okay, so let me read here so it's more legible. Okay, this place, Enoch, has been prepared for the righteous. So that's paradise. Okay, and we have seen here that paradise is connected to Eden and to the earth. I told you all that. Look at the teaching on the introduction to the Gospel of Bartholomew or Bartimaeus. This place, Enoch, has been prepared for the righteous, who suffer every kind of calamity in their life, and who afflict their souls. That's like fasting. And who avert their eyes from injustice, or turn away their eyes from injustice, and who carry out righteous judgment, who give bread to the hungry, and do not be deceived by the celebrities, most of who are devil worshippers, and they use charity to cover their wickedness. So we're not talking about, these are not separate acts of righteousness. You know, a righteous person will have the fruit of the Spirit. So the wicked will use charity to cover their wickedness. All right, so don't be confused by that. So who give bread to the hungry, and who cover the naked with clothing, and who lift up the fallen, and who help the injured and the orphans, and who walk without a defect before the face of the Lord, and who worship him only. Even for them this place has been prepared as an eternal inheritance. That's paradise, and connected to Eden. Okay, and we shall understand these things by and by. You know, when you look at the book of Revelation, you see the New Jerusalem coming down and all that. I don't want to get into a lot of digression there, but you know. Okay, so that is that about the third heaven. All right, and back to the hard copy here. You know, oh, it's a continuation. So here it does continue. All right, it does continue. All right, there is a northern side. There is a northern side, but before we go to the northern side, let's very quickly go to Matthew 25. Matthew 25. Matthew 25 will be okay. It'll be here. Matthew 25, and it will be verse 34. Okay. Actually, let's just do Matthew 25. Okay, and then this will be verse 34. All right, and he shall set the sheep on his right hand. Okay, let's quickly start from verse 1, verse 31 here. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory, and before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another. Now this, a lot of our people are confused by unity. And then when we bring out scriptures about other nations, the wicked, they say, oh, that's not love. They just have this weird and wrong concept of what love is. And they think, you know, coming together is of God. God separates the goats from the sheep, the wicked from the righteous. So God is about setting apart the righteous from the unrighteous. So coming together is Babylonianism, and people who have that kind of an attitude, they'll fall prey to the lies about one world religion, one world government. What has that done for you so far? Look at the lie about the UN. A lot of people are confused about the UN. You read about the UN in Psalms 83. I saw the other day some people lamenting, oh, why is Africa not given a permanent seat at the Security Council in the UN? Because Africa is where the 10 tribes of Israel are, and the UN is about the secret council of the wicked, whose main mission is to ensure that Israel does not become a nation, true Israel, the true children of Israel. So for someone to be expecting the UN to put Africa and give them a permanent seat at the UN, whose purpose is to discuss how to keep Africa underfoot, then you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, man, of course that's someone who was a secular person who doesn't understand these things. But anyway, let's come back here. And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. The Most High and Yahushua are about dividing between the goats and the sheep, okay, the righteous and the wicked. And he shall this thing about kumbaya coming together is Babylonianism. That's why you find, oh, let's bring all the religions together, respect my religion. That's Babylonian talk. The Tower of Babel, bring everything together and go against the true and the Most High God. Okay, so you have to be careful about that. It sounds very, the kind of unity we need is Zephaniah chapter 2 unity. Gather ye together, nation not desired. The unity we need is unity between the 12 tribes of Israel. That's where we should divert our energies to. That's the kind of unity we need. All right, not unity with the heathen nations that have been oppressing us. Okay, read Psalms 83. Watch the video on your biblical DNA, identity, and nationality revealed. Okay, or uncovered. Okay, so the Most High shall separate the Lord Yahushua shall separate the goat from the sheep. Okay, and he shall set the sheep on his right. Who are the sheep? These are the children of Israel. Will you hear? And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come ye, blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. How so? Through predestination. I told you in one of the videos that actually, I think it was the one about no pre-Adamic race and all that, and I think maybe one more video I touched on that. The Most High knows the end from the beginning, and he saw how everybody would be, and he chose the children of Israel as his inheritance. Okay, that's predestination. All right. For I was an hungered, and he gave me meat. I was thirsty, and he gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. Naked, and he clothed me. I was sick, and he visited me. I was in prison, and he came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. You see, he's referring to us as his brethren. Why? Because he's our kinsman redeemer. Then shall he also say unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his angels. Okay, so when the goats, what you would call the wolves in sheep's clothing, when they do their charity work, usually they have poison in there. They'll give those. You heard about the things like the vaccination drives that we're doing in Africa for polio, other things, and they put contraceptives in there because their aim is to reduce the population of the descendants of Jacob. So those kind of charity which are laced with wickedness and done by the goats, it doesn't count towards righteousness. That actually counts towards their wickedness, because they are wolves in sheep clothing. Okay, so anyway, we see here that paradise, or the third heaven, is prepared for the righteous. Okay, then there is also the northern side, and those men led me to the northern side and showed me there a very terrible place, and there were all manner of tortures and afflictions in that place, dreadful darkness and clouds without light, and there is no light there but darkness, fire constantly kindled, kindled. Okay, let me take you to so here we are. Well, let's go back over here. Okay, so this is separated as chapter 10, right? But in hard copy is the same chapter 5. Okay, here they showed Enoch the frightful place and various torture. So on one side we are still on the third heaven, and on one side is paradise what the righteous will enjoy, and then on the other side is a place of torture. And that's why actually when you read Isaiah, I think some of the latter chapters and elsewhere, you'll see that we shall be able to behold the wicked being tortured. Okay, it's kind of side by side. We'll be enjoying, and then so here it's not surprising that on the third heaven, Enoch was shown both paradise, the place of reward for the righteous, and then on the northern side was shown the place of torment for the wicked. So let's look at this. Okay, here it's chapter 10. And those men carried me to the northern region, and they showed me there a very frightful place, and all kinds of tortures and torment are in that place, cruel darkness and lightless gloom, and there is no light there, and a black fire blazes up perpetually, with a river of fire that comes out over the whole place. Fire here, freezing ice there, and it drives up and it freezes. Now, you know, the wicked people, and the people those in wicked devil worship and sexual society, they do a lot of things to pervert what we see in heaven, or to, you know, it's you know, they for instance have what they call fire and ice kind of initiation ceremonies and things like that. They copy those things from heaven, but then they pervert them. Okay, but here in the place of torture, anyway, we see fire and ice. Can you imagine that? A combination of fire and ice in the same place. Okay, and very cruel places of detention, and dark and merciless angels carrying instruments of atrocities, torturing without pity. Remember when we looked at, I believe, the Gospel of Bartholomew, I told you that it is holy angels who will be tormenting the wicked as well as the fallen angels. And the holy angels, or the angels of punishment, remember we saw the angel of vengeance who split the veil. Yeah, we see this being reinforced here in the book of Enoch. What we saw in the book of Bartholomew is being corroborated here by Enoch. All right, what he saw in heaven. All right, and this is the third heaven, remember. And so what did he see? He saw that it's a very, on the northern side of the third heaven, this other side we have paradise, but on the northern side there are very cruel places of detention, and dark and merciless angels. I told you, you know, those angels are depicted as black, and they call them demons, and that's why they you know, expanded the lie and say that demons are black, but, you know, holy angels are white. Those kind of things. It's a lie. You know, these dark merciless angels are not demons. They are holy angels, and they carry what? Remember, we already saw that on the second heaven there are fallen angels being guarded or tormented by holy angels. All right, so those holy angels are prison guards, if you like. A lot of the things, by the way, that you see on earth, even in the government systems, they are copied from the heavenly picture and, you know, perverted. Even the marching bands that you see with the armies and all that, that's all copied from heaven. You'll see that in the books of Enoch. That's why they hate these books, you know. All right, so anyway, in very cruel places of detention, and dark merciless angels carrying instruments of atrocities, torturing without pity. And I said, whoa, how very frightful this place is. And those men said to me, this place, Enoch, has been prepared for those who do not glorify God, who practice on the earth the sin which is against nature. I told you, these people who they destroy the environment, and what else? They push all these LGBTQXYZ whatever agenda. They confuse genders. They talk about, you know, changing what the Most High has created. The way the Most High created male and female, they go against nature. Those kind of things. Okay, watch. There's a place of torment for them. Okay, so this is prepared for those who do not glorify God, who practice on the earth the sin which is against nature, which is child corruption. Okay, which is child corruption. And I say, okay, so which is child corruption in earnest in the manner of Sodom. You see that? That is what, you know, those gay lifestyles of witchcraft, enchantments, divinations. This is all kind of witchcraft and stuff, sorcery, trafficking with demons. Listen to that. You know, this, you know, all kinds of demonic stuff, who boast about their evil deeds, stealing, lying, insulting, coveting, resentment, fornication, murder, and who steal the souls of men secretly, seizing the poor by the throat, taking away their possessions, enriching themselves from the possessions of others, defrauding them, who, when they are able to provide sustenance, bring about death of the hungry by starvation, and when they are able to provide clothing, take away the last garment of the naked, who do not acknowledge their Creator, but bow down to idols which have no source, which can neither see nor hear, vain gods, constructing images and bowing down to vile things made by hands. For all this place has been prepared as an eternal reward. So you can see, you can pause, you know, the video, look at that list again. It's, I mean, self-explanatory, all the wickedness, and that's why I told you, some of our, you know, confused people, they don't understand what love is. Okay, when we talk about as, you know, and the things that we are supposed to do, returning to the laws, touching the commandments, we are God's chosen people and all that, we are supposed to be different. They say, oh, love, love, love. Look, that whole love thing, there is a place for love, there's a definition for love, there is how love operates, and one of the ways love operates is telling the truth like this, telling people who, even our people who choose these ways of wickedness, they will suffer the same fate. That's love, to tell them the truth, that if they don't change their ways, they'll suffer. Then, rather than, you know, fool them with some fake love, make them think they're okay, and then they end up suffering like the rich man, you know, of Lazarus, who was now lamenting in the place of torment. So love is truthful. Love is not hypocritical. Okay, so our people are confused about. Some of them are, not everybody anyway, but anyway, here we see a list of all the things, and you see, like, one of them here is talking about how that these people, being able to provide sustenance, they let the hungry die from starvation. And I told you, this list here is not just for the heathens, even some of our own people who have fallen away and gone after the ways of the heathen. You see, it's very common, especially with the politicians and other kind of leaders. You see that, especially in Africa, you see how corrupt they are. Someone says, like, you know, slums is big business, or actually someone put it this way, poverty is big business, because there are people who make money by keeping others poor. These are the ones the scriptures are talking about here, that there is a place of torment for them, together with all those people who are living abominable lifestyle. So some of these you know, apply to our people who have chosen the ways of wickedness, and then of course the wicked who have, that's been their lifestyle, and have been, you know, very happy to corrupt our people with these kind of lifestyles. And that's what you see, like in the music industry, the so-called celebrities, they are usually compromised and made to go into these abominations. Okay, just like you saw in the days of Yahushua, when Satan was trying to tempt him and telling him, I'll give you the the kingdom of this world if you bow before me. Is the same trick Satan uses, and he promises these people fame and riches. But that's why Yahushua asked, what would it gain a man, what would it benefit a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul? So the celebrities and those kind of people, they sell their souls. And you see here, one of the things, these who steal the souls of men. There are people who are in the business of initiating or other people, stealing their souls, stealing their souls for the devil. Okay, when you see some of the testimonies of deliverance, people who were in devil worship, they were in the business, or who still are, they're in the business of, hunting down the souls of men for the devil. All right, and so those people who go into Satanism, they sell their souls to Satan, and then they do all these things, liberally, or people who are carried away by riches. If you look at the Apocalypse of Peter, it does list a lot of different kinds of punishment that people will go through, and one of the punishments will be for people who have made money or wealth their hope. There's going to be a special punishment for that, where they'll be, barbecued. Yeah, it's very. Anyway, this one here is also detailed enough. You can see that. Okay, but side by side on the third heaven is a place of torment on one side, and on the other side is a paradise. All right. Moving on to the fourth heaven. All right, and here the fourth heaven in in this hard copy here is chapter 6. All right, and before that, well, Revelation 14, 11, very quickly. Revelation 14:11, what's that about? Revelation 14:11. I'll show you what is going to happen. Is that we're going to skip forward, because some of the heavens have to do with the moon and the sun. I'm not going to spend so much time on there, but okay. So, and the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. This is very important. Actually, it's a very important cross-reference, because this here, let me see, this is Revelation 14 verse, let's start from verse 7. Let's start from verse 6, and because this is talking about the mark of the beast, and this is very relevant to the times that we are living in, with Jabba Jews, like all this jab and all that's going on, which is part of the it's part of the infrastructure, or part of the mark of the beast. Eventually, actually right now they're talking about brain implants or brain chip, and then the chip like the Bible talks about on the right hand and all that. So those are things that are coming, but it's important for our people to wake up and realize that what's going on right now is part of what these people have planned. Okay, so which is not for us. We are, our bodies are the temple of the Holy Spirit. Okay, verse 6 here. And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, Fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of waters. Now, what did we see in the book of the 6th of Enoch? Some of those people who will be tormented in that part of the north on the third heaven, and we saw that they deny their creator. Who are those? They talk about evolution. Okay, You know, if you have been, I mean, of course, you know that. Some of us have had to contend with that, even in university instruction and all that, because they try to push that, and if they see you don't believe in it, they try to rise against you. You know, because they want you to teach it as the gospel truth, and we know it's not. All right. So when some of us present that, and the facts about creation, the wicked are not happy. All right. So, but what are we saying here? That we know who the wicked are, and we see why they have been pushing the theories about evolution. They don't believe in creation, and all their lies are falling apart. Anyway, here we see that they do not glorify God, and they are okay. So saying, fear God and give glory to Him, for the hour of His judgment is come, and worship Him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of waters. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, the great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Now that is talking about America right there. Okay, America has been ruling the world alongside the European Union and East, which is Russia. Those are the children of Esau. They've been ruling the world as the Roman Empire, the fourth beast of Daniel. But America has been the second beast of that fourth beast. If you know, here in the book of Revelation. So this is America. It's been enforcing its policies. That they have their military around the world. They impose sanctions. They push gay agenda and those kind of things, LGBTQ stuff. They push all kinds of things, abortion and other things. All right. So here, then this scripture is talking about the fall of America, which is imminent right now. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink. So here we are seeing already they are talking about brain implant of the chip. That is Elon Musk. Elon Musk, incidentally, is said to come from South Africa. He's one of the Boers, the colonialists who took over the land of Gad, our brothers there, one of our tribes of Israel there. Elon Musk with his brain chip and stuff, that's part of this prophecy. And then the RFID chip they talk about implanting in the hand, which they have done in Sweden, even some of the states here, by the way, a few businesses here and there. But this is what they are working on as the next stage, the next phase of what they are trying to do now. Okay, and from the look of things here, it looks like Babylon would fall before some of these things are fully implemented, and the rest of the Roman Empire will try to implement them fully, but they will not succeed. Because the Most High will cut their time short. They will succeed to some extent, getting their own people and some of our wicked people, but the Most High will cut the days short. Okay. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture, very concentrated, into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. I told you that the angels of punishment, those are holy angels, they are not demons. Okay, so the torment will be done in the presence of the holy angels, and the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. What is that? We've been telling you that we need to return to the laws, statutes, and commandments. in addition to having the testimony of Yahushua, Jesus. So we need to receive Jesus because he is our kinsman redeemer. And in Matthew 15 and verse 24, he said that he was sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Okay, and salvation is for the Jews first, the southern kingdom, and then the Greeks. Those are the Hellenists. Some people think it is the heathens, but it is more so about the Hellenites, or the Gentiles from the northern kingdom, and the Hellenites brethren from the southern kingdom. So of course a few of the heathens who really truly convert, they'll partake of the kingdom. But the thing here is that we need to return to the Most High God and keep the law, statutes, and commandments, and accept Yahushua HaMashiach as our Savior. And we also see that there is a place of torment that is part of the third heaven on the northern side. And for the various things, the various sins that people do, indulging in wickedness, then there is going to be that place of torment. Okay, now moving on to the fourth heaven. Here it's chapter 11. Here they took Enoch to the fourth heaven, where the solar and lunar tracks are. So here in the fourth heaven we see the lunar and the solar tracks of that's the sun and the moon. Okay, very quickly here. I will not spend a lot of time here. So far we've seen three heavens. So the fourth heaven, what do we see there? And those men, meaning that is Shemuel and Reuel, the two angels. And those men took me and they carried me up to the fourth heaven. So those of you who have been in Eurocentric Christianity and have not woken up, you only know about three heavens. Okay, there's more than three heavens. All right, we've already seen that. And they show me there all the movements and sequences and all the rays of the solar and lunar light. And I measured their movements and I compared their light, and I saw that the sun has a light 7 times greater than the moon. And I saw his circle and his wheels, chariots, on which he always goes, going past always like the wind, with quiet, marvelous speed. We're talking about the sun, right? And his coming and his return give him no rest, day and night. And 4 great stars, each star having 1,000 stars under it, on the right hand side of the sun's chariot. So the sun also has a chariot that moves it. Okay, and 4 on the left hand side, each one having 1,000 stars under it, altogether 8,000, going with the sun perpetually, and 150,000 angels accompanying him in the daytime, and at night 1,000. And 100 angels go in front of the sun's chariot, 6-winged in flaming fire. And the sun blazes up and settles the 100 angels on fire, and sets the 100 angels on fire. So, okay, kind of going very quickly there. Maybe I'll be coming back to do especially on the sun and all that. But here we are seeing that the sun has a chariot that is attended by very many holy angels. Moving on here, the solar elements, and I looked and saw flying spirits, the solar elements, called phoenixes and Calcadrians. This is one of the orders of the holy angels. It was the 12th. And I told you I'll show you in the book of the 6th of Enoch. Here it is, and this is one of the order of the holy angels associated. You can see that they are flying spirits. They are called phoenixes and Calcadrians. Now in Hebrew this will be CHA. So again, I don't want to belabor the point so much here, but going back to here. Okay, remember the 12 orders of holy angels right here. All right, the phoenixes, Kolim. Okay, so that's what we're talking about, and it's one of the 12 orders of holy angels, and we see that in association. We see that in association with the sun. So these are flying spirits, and they're part of the soul element. They are called phoenixes and Chalcedrians or Chalcedrians. Strange and wonderful, for their form was that of a lion, their tail that of okay, so here they are talking of the Chalcedrians, and okay, they're talking about the phoenixes and Chalcedrians. I want to read for you from this book here, okay? And okay, and 4 great stars, and to every star there are 1,000 stars under it, going to the right of the sun, and 4 to its left, and to every star are 100 under it, 1,000 under it. You'll be surprised to know that 1,000 in Hebrew is called elf, in Swahili elfu. 100 in Hebrew is called mea, in Swahili mia. All right, learning on the way to learning, okay? Anyway, and altogether their number is 8,000, and they go with the sun continually. We've seen that on the digital form. And 15 myriads. Now over there we saw it was saying 15,000, and so maybe each myriad has 1,000. So 15 myriads of angels leaded by day, and by night 1,000. So it could be 15. A myriad could have 1,000. All right. And to each angel are 6 wings, and they go before the chariot, and 100 angels kindle its flames. Okay, so you see there's a difference there, because the original here tells us that 100 angels light the sun, they kindle the flames of the sun. But the digital form was telling us that 100 angels are lit by the sun, which is the opposite. Okay, now let's do a quick cross-reference here to Isaiah 6:2. Okay, Isaiah 6:2. We see what's going on there. Isaiah 6:2. Isaiah is in the Old Testament, this is right here, and we go to 6, and it says what? In the in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw. Now, by the way, Uzziah here in Hebrew to be Uzziah. It's a meaning about that, with ending as ya, referring to God. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw also the Lord, or Elohim, sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Above it stood the seraphims. Remember, it's one of the order of the holy angels. Each one had 6 wings. With twine he covered his face, and with twine he covered his feet, and with twine he did fly. This was actually one of the scriptures we looked at in the when we were talking about the 12 orders of the holy angels. Okay, so that was here in the book. Okay, and verse 6, and flying ruchot. Ruchot is plural for ruach. Ruach is one spirit, ruchot is many spirits, okay, multiple or plural. And flying ruchot, or flying spirits, in the form of 2 birds, one like the appearance of a coal, which is a phoenix, and the second like the appearance of a brazen serpent. Their faces are the faces of a lion, the feet and the tail and the head is like the Leviathan, which is Leviathan. Their appearance in purple like a rainbow in the clouds. Their size is 900 measures. Their wings are like the wings of angels, and to each of them is 12 wings, and they lead the sun's chariot, bearing dew and heat. Psalms 104, cross-reference. And when Elohim commands them, thus they revolve and descend and ascend in the heavens and on the earth with their rays of light, and they run continually. Okay, so we see anyway the phoenixes and Chalcedrians or Chalcedrians there. All right, and the angels picked up Enoch and set him up on the east and showed him the solar gates. So, and those men carried me away to the east, and they showed me the solar gates through which the sun comes out according to the appointment of the seasons and according to the phases of the moon for the entire year, and according to the numbers of the hololog, day and night. And I saw 6 open gates, each gate having 61 stadia and a quarter of a stadia and all that. Now, I'm not going to belabor that chapter. Basically, the take-home message for this chapter is that the sun moves from the east to the west through 6 gates, okay? And there is nothing like the nonsense and the lies they teach in physics and in science saying that the planets revolve around the sun. That's all lies. The sun moves from the east to the west and then under the earth and back from the east, okay? We see that in these 2 chapters. I'm not going to spend so much time on that, but the take-home message is that one of the lies they have always taught is that there is the sun at the center and then there is the planets around the sun at various distances from the sun and all that. That is all lies. And what they display as planets, those are fallen angels. And because I've done that on one of the videos, some of those videos that I never posted on social media that I send directly to contact, but it is there. If you look at the book of Acts, there's a time when those heathens, they refer to Paul as Jupiter and one of his colleagues as another quote-unquote planet. Those are gods. Those are fallen angels that they worship as Jupiter and Saturn and all that, okay? So there is nothing like planets and revolving around the sun. That is sun worship. It is Babylonianism. It is from Nimrod. All that is part of the Babylonian religions of the world. All these other religions you see, actually, they are all Babylonian, including Eurocentric Christianity. That's why you see it has all these pagan holidays and all that. And those are other teachings for another time, okay? But take it from these scriptures, not from me. The sun does, it moves from the east to the west across the earth. All right, there is nothing like this, the earth revolving around the sun and planets revolving around the sun. Okay, those are lies from the pit of hell. All right, the next chapter here, and then those men carried me away to the west of the heaven, and they showed me 6 large openings. So this is the same, talking about the gates of the sun. And I don't need to spend so much time on that. Moving on, they picked Enoch up and placed him once more in the east of the orbit of the moon. So this is the 4th heaven. Anyway, don't forget, we're on the 4th heaven here, and Enoch was shown there the paths and the cycles of the moon and the sun. All right, the moon has a very interesting cycle, which is a 12-month cycle, each with 31. Here they have changed the number of days in it, but I'm not going to spend so much time on that. But on the 4th heaven, anyway, we see that Enoch was shown about the pathways of the moon and the sun. And I'm going to skip forward here because I want to wrap up, and I'm going to go to the 5th heaven. And those men took me up on their wings and placed me on the 5th heaven. And I saw there many innumerable armies called Gregory, and their appearance was like the appearance of a human being, and their size was larger than that of large giants. Remember that? Irimo, and those are giants. Now remember, when we were looking at the 2nd heaven, whom did we see there? We saw the fallen angels who are imprisoned there. They are hanged in chains, and they are in continuous torment, and they're being guarded by holy angels. And Enoch was told that some of their colleagues are held on the 5th heaven. That's where we are at right now. Okay, so we are on the 5th heaven, where Enoch finds more of the fallen angels. Okay, So here we see, let's continue talking about looking at them. And their faces were dejected, and the silence of their mouths was perpetual. They were very sad and gloomy, okay? Just like on the second heaven. And there was no liturgy in the fifth heaven. Hey, you see those Christianism, that's church language. Liturgy. Remember, what did we see on the second heaven? On the second heaven, there was no service. You remember, like when you talk about church service, kind of thing. On the second heaven, there was no service. They were very gloomy. Now, on the fifth heaven, there was no liturgy. Liturgy is like the creed of what they call the creed of the apostles and stuff like that. You know, those of you who are familiar with that. And there was no liturgy in the fifth heaven. And I said to the men who were with me, what is the explanation that these ones are so very dejected, and their faces miserable, and their mouths silent? And why is there no liturgy in this heaven? And those men answered me, these are the Gregory who turned aside from the Lord, 200 myriads. Okay, now these are the watchers, all right? And okay, let me not get into that. Let me just go. Okay, these are the Gregory who turned aside from the Lord, 200 myriads. I think we saw that a myriad could have more than, you know, several angels, maybe 1,000 or whatever, together with their prince Satanael. And similar to them are those who went down as prisoners in their train, who are in the second heaven, imprisoned in great darkness. So again, we see that connection between what we saw on the second heaven and now on the fifth heaven. All right, so we see fallen angels who fell with the devil. You know, they are bound there, and 3 of them descended to the earth from the Lord's throne onto the place Hermon. Now, Hermon is what you call Mount Hermon. That is in Syria. You know what? You see the place where they fight about, you know, between the fake political state of Israel and Syria, what they call the Golan Heights. Okay? The reason why they fight for the Golan Heights is, for them, the mystical aspect of it. Because incidentally, the Golan Heights contains the place, this Mount Hermon, where the watchers fell, okay, in the days of Noah. And it also contains, on the other side, the place of the transfiguration of Yahushua HaMashiach, even Jesus the Christ. So the Mount of Transfiguration and the place where these fallen watchers fell, came down to corrupt the women, it's all on the so-called Golan Heights. Okay, they say there is oil and all that, but that's just a cover-up. There may be oil, yes, but in addition to oil, is a mystical place because of those reasons. Okay, that's why they like to put to keep tabs on it, because they connect, just like we have seen on the previous chapters describing those who will be punished. One of the things is that they do trade with wicked spirits. They work with the fallen angels, the what you call the Nephilim and all that. All right, so they came down onto a place known as listen to this. And then 3 of them descended to the earth from the Lord's throne onto the place Hermon, Mount Hermon, and they broke the promise on the shoulder of Mount Hermon, or Mount Hermon, and they saw the daughters of men, how beautiful they were, and they took wives for themselves, and the earth was defiled by their deeds. They produced the Nephilim, Marimo, or Irim. Okay, remember Irim? I told you at the beginning. Remember? Okay, here we are. Irimo, in Bantu. Okay, and that also brings us to this chapter here. All right, now this is the fifth heaven, and in the hard, remember I told you the chapters in this hard copy are different from the chapters in the soft copy, which is digital, because of these are longer chapters with more, they combine in the short chapters that we see on the digital version. But anyway, let's come quickly here. And they who went after them are bound in fetters in the second heaven, and those who turned away are in great darkness. Remember, we are reading from the book of the secrets of Enoch. This is scriptures, you know. And let's go to Jude 1 for a quick cross-reference. Jude 1, you see a confirmation of that, because the so-called New Testament quotes from Enoch. Even Yahushua HaMashiach himself, Jesus, he quoted Enoch. Okay, so let's go to Jude. Jude 1, and maybe Jude 1 verse 6. What does it say? And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day. So Jude, who was actually a stepbrother of Jesus, if you know the scriptures. Okay, let's just, for the sake of everybody's not having a headache. Okay, Jude, the brother of Jesus, he says, quoting from Enoch, that these fallen ones who left their place in the throne of God, so and three of them descended to the earth. Talking about three of what? Three of the myriads, and three of them descended to the earth from the Lord's throne onto the place of, onto the place Hermon. So they left their habitation, and they broke the promise on the shoulder of Mount Hermon, and they saw the daughters of men, how beautiful they were, and they took wives for themselves, and the earth was defiled by their deeds. So there was genetic mixing, okay, like is happening now, but this time they are doing it through their human agents, through mRNA and DNA manipulation, even using the jab and all that. The purpose of that is to change the genome, okay, to corrupt the seed, bring defilement. They are trying to defile what God created. Who and the wives of men created great evil in the entire time of this age, acted lawlessly and practiced miscegenation, and gave birth to giants, Irim, and great monsters and great enmity. So those monsters, when you look at the book of actually the book of Enoch, not the secrets of Enoch, but the first book of Enoch, we will see that these giants ate all the food, and they started eating others, in other animals, and even fighting amongst themselves. Okay, so but the giants were created between the union of the fallen angels and human women. All right, so that's how the Irim, that's where we get the Irimo from. It's, I mean, well, that's another thing, another story for another time. But in folklore, you find the story about giants. Okay, it's from here, this encounter between fallen angels and women, and that is why God has judged them with great judgment, and they mourn their brothers who are on the second heaven, and there will be outrages on the great day of the Lord. And I said to the Gregory, I have seen your brothers and their deeds and their torments and their great prayers. He was referring to the second heaven, and I have prayed for them. So he did. Actually, when you look at the book of Enoch, you'll find that he actually prayed for them. You see, I think chapter 14 of the first book of Enoch, where they gave him a petition to pray for them, and he read it and fell asleep. It was, kind of too much for him. But the Lord has sentenced them under the earth until heaven and earth are ended forever. And I said, why are you waiting for your brothers? And why don't you perform the liturgy before the Lord's face, before the face of the Lord? Why don't you perform your liturgy before the face of the Lord? I told you liturgy is a religious practice, like the Apostles' Creed. Start up your liturgy and perform the liturgy before the face of the Lord, so that you do not enrage your Lord to the limit. Okay, so we see them bound on the second heaven and the fifth heaven, and he is challenging them to worship the Lord, lest he be totally angry with them. Verse 9 here, and there shall Elohim judge them in the great judgment, and they weep concerning their brethren on the second heaven, and they shall be punished on the great day of Yahweh. Actually, we see that in 2 Peter 2, 2 Peter 2, very quickly as we wrap up here, and verse 4, 2 Peter 2, it says what? And through covetousness shall they with feigned words make merchandise of you. What is that? What is that? Let me even start from verse 1. But there were false prophets also among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you, who privily shall bring in damnable heresies, even denying the Lord that bought them, and bring upon themselves swift destruction. Do you know, actually, even with the awakening, some of our people are denying Jesus or Yahushua HaMashiach. There's a group of people who deny Jesus. Yeah, they are part of this, together with the heathens. And many shall follow their pernicious ways, by reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken of. They bring bad reputation to the truth. And through covetousness shall they with feigned words make merchandise of you. Now, that is what Eurocentric Christianity has been about, making merchandise of you. That's why in all over the place you hear people say, what? Church has become a business. That is thanks to Eurocentric Christianity and some of our wicked people who also go into those kind of practices, trying to make merchandise of the people, making money, so turning it into a money-making business, whose judgment now of a long time lingereth or waiteth, and their damnation slumbereth not. For if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment, and spared not the old world, but saved Noah the eighth person, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly, and so on and so forth. So it continues to say that the wicked shall not escape what? Okay, they shall not escape punishment. All right, so that's what we see there in on the fifth heaven. All right, on the fifth heaven we see that there are other fallen angels who are bound there. I want to move on here quickly to kind of wrap up, to go to the sixth heaven, about the taking of Enoch to the sixth heaven. All right, and those men took me from there, and they carried me up to the sixth heaven, and I saw there 7 groups of angels, brilliant and very glorious, and their faces were more radiant than the radiance of the sun, and there was no difference between their faces or in their dimensions of in the style of their clothing. So first heaven, as a glassy sea. Second heaven, imprisoned fallen angels and a torment guarded by holy angels. Third heaven, paradise on one side. On the other side, a place of torment. All right, and then we also saw the eastern side. Now then we went to the fourth heaven. There's the pathways of the solar and lunar pathways. All right, that is in the fourth heaven. Fifth heaven, we have seen more fallen angels imprisoned there. All right, and now in the sixth heaven we are seeing holy angels shining, glorious. And these groups, there is 7 groups of holy angels there, and these groups carry out and carefully study the movements of the stars and the revolutions of the sun. Do you see that? The revolution of what? The sun. The sun, it is the sun that revolves around the earth, not the other way around. Okay? And the phases of the moon and the well-being of the cosmos. And when they see any evil activity, they put the commandments and instructions in order, and the sweet choral singing and every kind of glorious praise. These are the archangels who are over the angels, and they harmonize our existence, heavenly and earthly. And angels who are over seasons and years, I told you there's nothing like all this global warming nonsense they talk about. They are holy angels in charge of all that, okay? And angels who are over rivers and the ocean, and angels who are over the fruits of the earth and over every kind of grass, and who give every kind of food to every kind of living thing. And angels who record all human souls and all their deeds and their lives before the face of the Lord. So all the deeds are recorded, okay, by the holy angels. And in the midst of them are 7 phoenixes and 7 cherubim and 7 six-winged beings, having but one voice and singing in unison. And their song is not to be reported, and the Lord is delighted by his footstool. So very quickly we see about the 6th heaven, that in the 6th heaven there are those holy angels who are there singing. All right, now over here in the hard copy, this is a segment here that talks about the watchers. All right, I'll do that. These are the ones that fell on Mount Hermon. Incidentally, one of the film companies in Hollywood, Los Angeles and all that is called it's called what? It's named after these Mount Hermon, and they show the stars, the angels descending on Mount Hermon. It's called Paramount Studios. Okay, Paramount Studios, I think their logo shows these fallen angels descending on what? Mount Hermon. And you see this one chasing after what? A woman there. All right, so that's what we were just covering in the book of Enoch. I want to show you quickly here what we just talked about from the digital version, and this is Enoch's ascension to the 6th heaven, and there he saw the various groups of holy angels. What I want to quickly do here, and the angels over all the souls of men, recording all their deeds and their lives before Yahweh. Verse 6, and with them are 7 kolim. Kolim is plural for phoenix, so it's phoenixes. Remember, one is kolim, but kolim is phoenixes, and 7 cherubim. cherubim, yeah, and 7 captains with 6 wings, and they sing with one voice, and it's not possible to describe their singing. Isaiah 6:2. And they rejoice before Yahweh at his footstool. Okay. Acts 7:49. Was that Stephen? Acts 7:49. Let's quickly see that. All right, Acts 7:49. As I wrap, I'm rushing to wrap up here. Acts 1:49. Heaven is my throne, and earth is my footstool. What house will you build me, say the Lord, or what is the place of my rest? Okay, that's what Acts 7:49 is about. Okay, so let's move on to the 7th heaven. Okay, the 7th heaven right here. All right, and I'll go to the digital version. All right, in the 7th heaven. So we have seen that in the 6th heaven there are 7 groups of holy angels. We have the archangels there that keep, they are over other holy angels, and they keep harmony in all the existence, heavenly and earthly. Okay, and there are other angels who are over seasons, years, rivers, oceans, fruits, grass, and all that kind of food. Okay, that's on the 6th heaven. All right, 7th heaven. From there they took Enoch into the 7th heaven, and those men lifted me up from there, and they carried me up to the 7th heaven, and I saw there an exceptionally great light, and all the fiery armies of the great archangels and the incorporeal forces. Remember, the purpose of this teaching was to show you the various levels of heaven, or the various heavens, and the holy angels found in the various levels, as a continuation of our coverage of the 12 orders of holy angels. Okay, so you will see that some of the orders we mentioned in that teaching, we are seeing them repeated here, or represented at some of these levels of heaven. Okay, so this is the 7th level of heaven, and we saw here great archangels and the incorporeal forces and the dominions and the origins and the authorities, the cherubims, the seraphims, and the many-eyed ones. Remember Male Ainim? Remember that? The many-eyed ones. Regiments. Remember, I told you some of the things you see in the governments of this world, they borrow from heaven and pervert. And the shining autonym stations. And I was terrified, and I trembled with a great fear. So what are autonym stations? Okay, so this is very, very, very important, because in fact in this book, okay, when I was doing the other teaching, I went to a digital version of the book of Enoch, and unfortunately, because of what we realize today, the digital version is it has more chapters than the hard copy version, so the chapters are off. Okay, so when I was talking about chapter 9, I should have been looking at the chapter 9 in this Ethiopic version. Watch verse 1. And those 2 men lifted me up from there, and they raised me up to the 7th heaven, and I saw there a very glorious light, and fiery hosts of great chief angels, and the incorporeal forces, and dominions, principalities, and governments, cherubim and seraphim, thrones. Remember thrones that I was telling you, the thrones are kitot, yeah, and fully eyed ones, Ainim, Male Ainim, fully eyed ones, 10 standing troops, the light of the Ophanim, or the whales. Okay, so this chapter 9 has all those orders, almost all of them. Okay, watch. The chief angels, these are the archangels. Okay, incorporeal forces. What did we call the incorporeal forces? The incorporeal forces are the Kokot Loguf. Okay, dominions. and dominions are the Shiltonot. Then we have principalities, and the principalities are the Sarim. Then we have governments, and the governments were the Moshlim. Then we have the cherubim. We have the seraphim, just like same pronunciation. We have thrones, and the thrones, once again, they are the Kitot, okay? And fully eyed ones, which are the Malay Ainim. There's 10 standing troops, yeah, and that is what? Esre, Gedudim, Miamed. All right. Then we have the light of the Ophanim. Ophanim were the wheels, okay, the chariots. All right, the light of the chariots. Watch that. You see the chariots. You see when I'm recording, you see the brightness of the chariots, and they flash different colors: white, golden, blue, silver, and all that. Okay. And those men took me and led me after them, and they said unto me, "Have courage, Enoch, do not fear." And they showed me Yahweh from afar, upon his very high throne. What did I tell you in one of the previous teachings? When someone is on the 7th heaven, they can see the 10th heaven from far. I told you that. Watch those previous teachings, especially the one on the 7 orders of all the angels, and the Gospel of Bartholomew. And then, did I say 12 orders of the holy angels? I was talking about 7th heaven, and I carried that over. I'm talking about the teaching on the 12 orders of the holy angels. I talked about the 7th heaven being kind of connected all the way 7th, 8th, 9th to 10th. Yeah. And they showed me Yahweh from afar upon his very high throne, and all the hosts of heaven drew near and stood on the 10 steps. You see the 10 steps? According to their rank, and would bow down to Yahweh, and would turn to their far off places in joy and gladness, in boundless light, singing songs with small voices, gloriously serving him. They do not retreat at night, and they turn not away in the day, and they stand before Yahweh they stand before Yahweh doing his will. The cherubim and seraphim standing around the throne, and the captains with 6 wings covering his throne, singing with gentle voice before Yahweh, Holy, holy, holy is Yahweh Elohim of hosts. The heavens and the earth are full of your glory. We see that repeated in Revelation 4:8. And remember, we are reading from the book of Enoch, okay? So it corroborates, or the scriptures corroborate what we see in the book of Enoch. The scriptures in the so-called Bible, they corroborate what we see in the book of Enoch. Okay. 4:8. And the 4 beasts, and each of them 6 wings about him, and they were full of eyes within, and they rest not day and night, saying, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, which was and is to come. And you hear that sometimes when I'm recording, and you also see that in the book of Enoch. If you also see Hanan, John the Revelator, was shown the same thing. Okay, so that is the 7th heaven. All right, that's the 7th heaven. And I'm trying to wrap up here. Holy, holy, holy. They were singing. This is what I want to read for you because Enoch had a very interesting experience here when he got to the 7th heaven. Okay, and they do not live by night nor depart by day, standing in front of the face of the Lord and carrying out his will. Cherubim and seraphim standing all around his throne, 6 winged and many eyed, and they cover his entire throne. These are orders of the holy angels we've already seen, and we have read in the hard copy, singing with gentle voice in front of the face of the Lord, holy, 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 Lord, Lord Sabaoth, or Lord of hosts. Heaven and earth are full of his glory. And when I had seen all these things, those men said to me, Enoch, or Enoch, up to this point we have been commanded to travel with you. Now, who are those two men? Shemuel and Ruel. Shemuel, Elohim has had, and Ruel, the friend of Elohim. Those are the two men, or the two angels that led Enoch or Enoch this far. And the men went away from me, and from then on I did not see them anymore, but I remained alone at the edge of the seventh heaven, and I became terrified, and I fell on my face, and I said in myself, woe to me, what has happened to me? And the Lord sent one of his glorious ones, the archangel Gabriel. I'll be doing a separate teaching on the archangels. And he said to me, be brave, Enoch, don't be frightened, stand up and come with me and stand in front of the face of the Lord forever. And I answered him and said, woe to me, my Lord. Now he's addressing the angel as his Lord. Sometimes you see, I've already talked about that when I did that teaching on the fact that the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was not an apple, and that goes on to talk about the ministry of the holy angels. And I told you that the holy angels, they are our lords, or like boss and fellow servants. So you see, Enoch himself is addressing the holy angel, just like Baruch as my Lord. Okay, my soul has departed from me from fear and horror. I told you, when the terrestrial encounters the celestial, there is awe and terror. And call the two men who brought me to his place. Okay. Oh yeah, this is Enoch now. He says, and call to me the two men who brought me to this place. So he's talking to the archangel and telling him to call back Shemuel and Ruel, because I have put my confidence in them. They had been with him through 7 levels of heaven, so they had become buddies, and so he was missing them. And with them I will go before the face of the Lord. So he wanted them to accompany him to the presence of the Most High. And Gabriel carried me up like a leaf carried up by the wind. He moved me along and put me down in front of the face of the Lord. Yahweh. And I saw the 8th heaven, listen to that, which is called in Hebrew language Mazuroth. Okay, the changer of the seasons, of dry and of wet, and the 12 zodiacs. You see that? The wicked, they copy things that are heavenly and they pervert them. When they talk about the zodiac signs, they have taken it from the scriptures and perverted it into their wicked mythology, which are above the 7th heaven. And I saw the 9th heaven, which is in the Hebrew language is called Kehuvim. Kehuvim. See Kehuvim? Okay, where the heavenly houses of the 12 zodiacs are. You see that? I told you from the 7th heaven to the 10th there's some kind of connection, but we are seeing the constellations, the higher constellations of the zodiac. They are housed there, part of the Mezuloth, like some of the things I read at the beginning. We shall do a special teaching on some of the things here. Okay. In the 10th heaven, the archangel Michael brought Enoch in front of the face of the Lord. And on the 10th heaven, Avaroth. So the name of the 10th heaven is Avaroth. Okay, let's go back. The 8th heaven is called what? Mezuloth. The 9th heaven is called Kehuvim, and the 10th heaven is called Aravoth. I saw the view of the face of the Lord like iron made burning hot in a fire and brought out, and it emits sparks and is incandescent. Thus even I saw the face of the Lord but the face of the Lord is not to be talked about. It is so very marvelous and supremely awesome and supremely frightening. And who am I to give an account? And who am I to give an account of the incomprehensible being of the Lord and of his face, so extremely strange and indescribable? And how many are his commands in his multiple voice, and the Lord's throne, supremely great and not made by hands, and the choir stalls all around him, the cherubim and the seraphim armies, and their never silent singing. Who can give an account of his beautiful appearance, never changing and indescribable, and his great glory? And I fell down flat and did obeisance to the Lord. You see, prostrating before the Lord, total submission. Hallelujah. And the Lord with his own mouth said to me, be brave, Enoch, don't be frightened. Stand up and stand up in front of my face forever. And Michael, one of the archangels, the Lord's archangel, lifted me up and brought me in front of the face of the Lord. And the Lord said to his servants, sounding them out, let Enoch join in and stand in front of my face forever. You see, the Lord has a sense of humor. And the Lord's glorious ones did obeisance and said, let Enoch yield in accordance with your word, O Lord. And the Lord said to Michael, go and extract Enoch from his earthly clothing, and anoint him with my delightful oil, and put him in the clothes of my glory. So Enoch could not stand in his earthly clothes, in the human flesh, in front of the Most High. He had to be clothed with a celestial outfit. And so Michael did just as the Lord had said to him. He anointed me and clothed me, and the appearance of that oil is greater than the greatest light, and its ointment is like sweet dew, and its fragrance myrrh. Now we see this from the days of Adam. When you read this book of Adam and Eve, you'll see it's mentioned there. And it is like the rays of the glittering sun. And I looked at myself, and I had become like one of his glorious ones, and there was no observable difference. And the Lord summoned one of his archangels, Revoil by name, who was swifter in wisdom than the other archangels, and who records all the Lord's deeds. And the Lord said to Revoil, bring out the books from my storehouses, and fetch a pen for speed writing, and give it to Enoch or Hanok, and read him the books. And Revoil hurried and brought me the books, a knife and ink, and he gave me the pen for speed writing from his hand. Now we're gonna have to stop here, because I just want to take you all the way through to the 10th heaven. Maybe just go a little bit further here, and he was telling me all the things of heaven and earth and sea, and all the elements and the movements and their courses, and the living thunder and the sun and the moon and the stars, their courses and their changes and seasons and years and days and hours, and the coming of the clouds and the blowing of the winds, and numbers of the angels, and songs of the armed troops, and every kind of human thing, and every kind of language, singing, human life, and rules and instructions, and sweet voice singing, and everything that is appropriate to learn. And Revoil instructed me for 30 days and 30 nights, and his mouth never stopped speaking. As for me, I did not rest, writing all the symbols and all the creatures. And when I had finished 30 days and 30 nights, Revoil said to me, these things, whatever I have taught you, whatever you have learned, and whatever we have written down, you sit down and write. All the souls of men whatever of them are not yet born, and their places prepared for eternity. For all the souls are prepared for eternity before the composition. Do you hear that? Predestination. Why? Because the Most High knows how everyone will behave, how everyone will be, okay? And all that is written down, before the composition of the earth. And I sat down for a second period of 30 days and 30 nights, and I wrote everything accurately, and I wrote 366 books. How many books do you have, or do we see in the so-called Bible? Only 66, and none of them is the book of Enoch. Okay, so there is way more. Okay, now I'm gonna have to stop here because it gets very interesting. Now the encounter between the Most High and Enoch. At least it's been a long journey to bring you from the first heaven to the 10th heaven. All right, it's been a long stretch, and I'll be doing a teaching here on the archangels. But okay, I wanted to correct one thing. Okay, I'm going to this hard copy to correct one thing. Okay, the name of the angel that we encountered talking to, or who was told to write to guide Enoch. Okay, the word they had in English there was kind of a tongue twister, and it was not even looking familiar to me because I have seen a different name in the copies that I've read. Okay, so let's look at this. And Yahweh called forth one of his chief angels, and his name is Uriel. So the name, okay, let me show you what I'm talking about. So the name that they're calling here Vervoil is Uriel. It's Uriel. It's Uriel. It's not whatever they are trying to write there. Okay, it's Uriel. Uriel, as I told you last time, Uriel means Yahweh is light. Yahweh is my light. Uri is light. Uriel. Okay, and Yahweh called forth one of his chief angels, and his name is Uriel, and he was quicker in wisdom than the other chief angels, who writes all the deeds of Yahweh. And he said unto Uriel, bring forth the books from my treasuries, and take a reed of quick writing. So what they were calling a knife is actually a reed, and give it to Enoch, and declare the books to him. Now we see Enoch writing. Okay, so what do the heathens lie to us? They lie to us that Egypt or Egyptians invented writing. That's nonsense from the pit of hell. Okay, there was writing before the so-called Egyptian. Before this was long before the children of Israel and the slavery and all that in Egypt. Okay, this was way before the flood. Enoch, before the flood, was writing. In fact, we see in the book of Jubilee that he was the first one to write. So there is nothing like Egypt inventing writing. Okay, and Uriel made haste and brought the books unto me, and he gave me a reed of quick writing from his hand. And it came to pass that he spake unto me all the deeds of the heavens and the earth, and the foundations of the rivers, the acacias, the thunderings, and the planets. There's a different word for this. Whatever they're calling the planets here, and is not really a planet the way we know it. And the sun and the moon. In fact, even what were they calling? The blowing of the wind, angels, human beings singing. Yeah, okay, the course of the moon, the stars, the course of their changes. There's no planet here. I don't know why whoever interpreted this as planets here. Okay, it's really not okay. Let's see what comes before the sun there. Okay, the movement, it's the elements, heaven and earth, the sea, and all the elements. Okay, elements. So here what they are calling planets here are actually elements. All right, and the stars, their courses and their changes, the seasons and the years, days, and all that. The number of angels and the singing of the armies, the victuals, and everything from men. Oh, the victuals is food storage, and every singing language, and the lives of the children of men, and the commandments and the judgments, and the present voice singing and learning all of his judgments. Jubilees too. And remember, I told you in Jubilees we see Enoch writing, and it came to pass that Uriel spoke to me for 30 days and 30 nights. His mouth did not cease from speaking, and I did not cease writing all the signs of creation. And after 30 days and 30 nights, Uriel said unto me, these are the things that I have declared unto you, and that you have written. And now sit and write all the souls of the children of men that have not been born, and the places prepared for them before the creation of the world. So where we are born and all that has already been preordained. Okay, 2nd Ezra 14 and verse 44. Let's go there very quickly as we wrap up here. 2nd Ezra 14. Okay, this is what I'm looking for. Let's go to 2nd Ezra 14 and verse 44. Okay, let's just go to that. So what does verse 44 tell us here as we wrap up? In 40 days they wrote 244 books. Okay, so it's actually like corroborating what we see, or the writing that, you know, some of the books that were destroyed, Ezra was given the ability to write them back by the Most High. And after 30 days and 30 nights, Uriel said unto me, these are the things that I have declared unto you, and that you have written. And now sit and write all the souls of the children of men that have not been born, in the places prepared for them before the creation of the world. For every soul was prepared before the creation of the world. See that? So the Most High knows ahead of time how people will be, you know. He knows the end from the beginning, and that's why he has his chosen people. He's not being, you know, chosen now, abracadabra stuff. No, you know. And I sat 30 days and 30 nights, and I copied every judgment, and I wrote 366 books. All right, so we see that. This is very interesting from chapter 11. It will be another separate teaching that I'll do, and it will just blow your mind to see the amazing things that the Most High told Enoch. A very interesting. This one will do it as a special separate teaching, and so I'm gonna kind of have to stop at this point, and I think I'll separate it as two teachings, part 1 and 2, instead of making you watch for 2 hours. It's happening now. People are, you know, doing it, or you can watch and come back later. But and I may do it both ways, upload it as a full teaching and a separate teachings. But anyway, I'm gonna kind of have to wrap it up at this point. By the grace of the Most High, we have seen the 10 levels of heaven and what's happening on each of the levels. As a recap, on the first heaven, which is firmament, Enoch was shown the sea, or the glassy sea, and then the second heaven, fallen angels were chained there in perpetual torment and guarded by holy angels, and they're very gloomy, very dark and all that. Third heaven, on one side there is paradise, which is connected to Eden, as I already told you in other teachings, and then on the northern side there is a place of torment. Okay, and we have seen what kind of people we tormented and for the various sins. And then fourth heaven, we saw the cause of the moon and the sun, the solar systems. And on the fifth heaven, more of the fallen angels who were bound there, and there is no, literally there is gloom. And over there, there's also the Gregory, who the fallen ones, the watchers, fell to produce the Nephilim, or the Irimo, and then on the sixth heaven, we saw that there is groups of holy angels. I think that's what we saw. There was how many? There was 7 groups of holy angels, right, on the sixth heaven. And then on the seventh heaven, you know, Enoch was left there. But what did we see there? There was great light, fiery armies of great archangels, incorporeal forces, and dominions, and the origins, and the authorities, cherubim, seraphims, many-eyed ones, arrangements, shining, fanning, all of them there. All right, that's on the seventh heaven. All right, so there's a beautiful myriad of holy angels on the seventh heaven, and then from there he was left by the two holy angels, whom in the next teaching, or one of the upcoming teachings, you'll see that their names were Shemuel and Ruel, heart of Elohim and friend of Elohim. And then they left him there, and Gabriel came and picked him up and took him before the face of the Lord. And then Michael was told to anoint him and dress him in a celestial body. Okay, so, and then in between we saw that there is the eighth heaven, and the eighth heaven, we saw that it's called the Mezuloth, and the ninth heaven is called Hakovim, and the 10th heaven is called Aravoth. All right, so, and then on the 10th heaven, that's where the Most High is. So those of you who've been thinking that there's only 3 heavens, third heaven is paradise. Okay, the Most High is on the 10th heaven, and sometimes when some of the scriptures, they will tell you up to 7th heaven, but there's that kind of connection there. Very interesting. And then the 9th and 8th heavens, there we see what? We see the zodiacs, and these are the things that the heathens take and they pervert and they worship them. That's why you see they talk about what's your star and all that stuff they get from what is in heaven. They were hiding these books of Enoch, and then they pervert that into idol worship, and they talk of what's your birthday star and things like that. Okay, they have perverted the Mezuloth, which we saw at the beginning of the this teaching here. Anyway, with this I'm gonna say Kwam Yisrael, Barakadam Mishpacha Arvim, Shabbat Shalom, and see you on the next one. Shabbat Shalom. Let's lift up our eyes. Our redemption draweth nigh. Shabbat Shalom. Light out. See you soon. Shabbat Shalom. Please like and share this video, and subscribe to the Bantu Hebrew Israelites Awakening channel for automatic notification of future uploads of videos. Shalom Aleichem. In this amazing book from Russia, painted within the Annunciation Cathedral, back in the 15th century. The crucifixion, this icon of the crucifixion, shows Jesus with the white garment, dark-skinned, as the Bible describes in Revelation chapter 1 verse 14 and 15. The Israelites as well, dark-skinned, as we see in Jeremiah 14 verse 2, Lamentations 4:8, Job 30:30, all in King James Version, before it was manipulated through translations. True Israelites, Negroes, Bantus, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Shalom Aleichem.